Hello everyone and welcome to Clarity 16.4.0 feature supportability training. I am Vib Mehrotra, and as part of this training module we will be talking about the common grid nested subobjects. As part of Clarity 16.4.0 we have enhanced the common grid to support viewing subobject data as a nested grid. The ability to see the sub-object data as a nested grid was first introduced in our OKRs, and now in Clarity 16.4.0 we have enhanced the common grid to make the same functionality be available everywhere else. So with that, let's see the product in action. So I'm going to go straight to Clarity 16.4.0. I am in the projects common grid, or the grid layout for projects. I'm going to go ahead and change my view to cost and benefit. Here now my data is smaller in size, and this allows me to see more information. I can see the list of all my projects that are filtered down, and I can see some of my projects data as part of the grid. At this point, if I wanted to see the task information for my projects, I can do so by updating my view. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and go to my view option. In the view option, now you will see that there is a new toggle called Show Nested Subobjects. This toggle allows me to add a sub-object grid. So when I toggle this on, the screen will flash and I would now have an option to select one of the sub-object to be displayed in my grid. By clicking on it, I can see the list of all the sub-objects that are available to my project object. And since I want to see the task, I'm going to go ahead and pick task. When I do that, I can see that the sub-object has been added. I can see that for all my projects that are on this master grid, there is a new arrow that has been added that indicates that there is a sub-object grid underneath here. If I expand the first column, I can also see that now that the name of the master object has been added to the first column itself. Alright, so let's go ahead and expand. The few things you'll observe first is that anytime you add a sub-object to your as a subgrid to the master object grid, you will see that by default we will always add two columns, the name and ID for that sub-object. Second, you will observe that the name of that sub-object is added to the first column title. So its task is what is I've added, and that is what is added to the first sub-object grid column's title. Now, if I wanted to add additional columns from my sub-object in this grid, I can do so by going to either one of the two columns, hovering over to the column menu picker, and I there get all the option to do the sizing for the columns, as well as I see the sub-object column picker. Here I can see the different attributes that are available to me that I can include in my sub-object grid. So let's go ahead and add a few columns. I'm going to add start date. I'm going to add the finish date. And I am going to add status. So at this point you can see that I have now added the three additional columns. I can easily drag and reorder them as I wish to do so. I can collapse this and go look at other objects, so the same layout is maintained for the other object instance that are there. If I wanted to switch this, so I went back to the first one, If I wanted to switch, and instead of seeing the task, I wanted to see the risks that have been defined within this project, I can do that by easily going back to my view option and now changing from the nested subobject to pick risk. When I do that, you can see that the screen refreshed, and now we added the risk. Again, the first column has the object name added to it, and by default we added the name and ID for the new subobject that I included. I can of course do the same thing, add additional columns and so on. But at this point, let's say I wanted to now switch back to my task. So I can go back and pick task again, and by doing so, because my previous configuration was in an unstable state, it is retained and it is brought back and displayed to me. I can see that the same start, finish, and status have been is still there in my sub object grid. And at this point, I can continue to configure this further, and let's say maybe I wanted to only see the tasks that have started. I can do that by going back to the column picker menu, and here there is an icon for filter. This allows me to filter the sub object grid data based on that specific column. So yes, I can only filter for the columns that have been added to my sub object grid. So let's say I want to only see start. When I click on that, I see that the data is refreshed and I'm only seeing the tasks that have started. Also, for those that were paying attention, the number right here basically reflects the tasks that I am seeing out of the total counter. And basically I'm seeing 10 at a time, and there are 4 more that I can see, a total of 14. Right, so that is displayed and is available to me. I can of course continue to add more and configure more. If I wanted to retain this view for continue to view maybe in the future, I can do so by going ahead and saving this as save as. So let's just call this as project with tasks, and now this layout will be saved for me. So I have go ahead and save. So the layout then gets saved as part of your saved view. I have another one that I have already saved for projects with risks. If I navigate to that one, it will take me and display the projects with their risks. So as you can see that if you have your sub object grid saved as part of your saved view, you can then get back to it anytime by navigating to that saved view itself. Right, so I can go ahead and now if I want to go back to my task, I can go to that saved view for project with task. That was the view that I had saved with the sub object grid of task. Navigating that, again it displays it and it retains the state of my view itself with the sub object expanded, because that is where I had saved it as. The same capability, like I said, since this is a common grid capability, this is available to me if I go to ideas. Same thing, if I go ahead, I can see the show nested grid option right there. If I go to any of my investments, which I'm going to go into the business capability, here I can go ahead and enable there. Same thing, I can pick any one of the sub objects. Let's say I pick risk, and then it shows me the risk that is there. If I was to go ahead inside to one of those, let's create a new risk. All right, just call that out, and if I go back, you would see the newly created one appears right away. So it'll just pretty much refresh the information right away. And that concludes our demo for this training module. And that concludes this training module itself. Thank you everyone for listening.